Hello, my bursting boomerangs. It's your boy Zionic Blader, and today I'm going to show you my entire Beyblade Burst collection. Now, I've been mainly collecting the Hasbro line, and when I say mainly, I mean like I only have like 3 Takara Tomy Beyblades and then like 77 Hasbro Beyblades. But I've been collecting the Hasbro Beyblade Burst line since like 2016 when it just came out. And over the years, I've amassed a collection of about 77 Beyblades, which is pretty good. I mean, like, my YouTube channel isn't monetized, so this is all just because I really like Beyblade. Now, I've been into Beyblade for a really long time, ever since I was a kid with the original plastic generation. And then I got really competitive during the Metal Saga, and then now I make YouTube videos with the Burst Beyblades. But, yeah, first of all, let's take a look at the stadiums I got. First, this is the Takara Tomy Stadium, and I got this one because I wanted to do some competitive testing with the Hasbro Beyblades, because I'm really into the Hasbro competitive scene. Even though there hasn't really been any tournaments, I'm just really into the whole theory crafting kind of thing. I also have the Starstorm battle set. This one came with the Valtryek V3 and the Satum S3. This one is my least favorite stadium. I actually think this is a pretty bad stadium. You know, it's really, really small, which is kind of weird because it's about the same size as the Takara Tomy one, but I feel like this one's more cramped than this one. I have no idea why. Might be because it's a square, but this one is my favorite one. Sorry, it's a bit dusty. I just took this out of the closet, but this one is the World Tournament set stadium. This is the one that they used in the actual World Championship, which is why I really like it. It's also pretty big as well, though this one has a bit of a bias towards defense and stamina types because of how flat it is compared to the Takara Tomy one, where it's all like rounded to allow even the attack type Beyblades to have more of a chance to play. It seems like the Hasbro Beyblades, even way back in the day, they tend to favor, their stadiums tend to give the defense and stamina type Beyblades more of a benefit, or more of an upper hand. But anyways, let's take a look at the launchers and stuff that I have. Or actually, I guess before that, here are what I use to store Beyblades. Now, my first storage thing was this orange Beyblade container. It's pretty cheap, you know, even the plastic is really cheap. I mainly got this because of the exclusive Dark Valtryek, which is one of my favorite promo Beyblades I have. Otherwise, I don't really use this other to put like my loose parts that I don't really use. And then this is the first tackle box I used when I started amassing a big collection. But then eventually it got too many Beyblades, and I had to upgrade to this double-decker Stanley kind of toolbox. Or, like, you open this up. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, there's like 2 different levels to it. Yeah, so there's the bottom level where I keep mainly the launchers, and then most of my evolution Beyblades I keep here. And then there's the top part where you know, just for some more space as well. Whoops. But anyways, now let's take a look at the launchers and everything. You know, there is the standard, you know, light launchers, the blue one and the white one. The cool thing about these ones is that they all connect. That was what I found really cool, but this one feels super cheap. Like, I could probably break this with my hand, but this one's a bit more higher quality. However, when this thing released, they also released some better launchers as well. But I mean, it's still, this is a pretty good light launcher to have. I mean, if you don't have anything else. I mean, it's definitely better than this thing. This thing, when you'd launch a Beyblade, you'd hurt your hands if you had the hands that were bigger than like a 5-year-old. But my favorite kind of setup is this one. For a competitive Beyblade match, I wouldn't really use this, mainly because it's not reliable enough. It tends to skip and stuff. But I like how it's a lot more easier to use. You know, you don't really have to aim that much, and you can also add the other launchers to it as like a hand grip, because in the Hasbro releases, they didn't really have a grip like they did for the Takara Tomy versions. Now, another Hasbro launcher that I like quite a bit is the sword launcher. This one is probably the strongest launcher in Hasbro, at least, but it's really hard to kind of aim with it because it's very like there's a lot more resistance to this launch as compared to other launchers, but still a pretty powerful one. This one still works. Apparently, a lot of people have had issues where theirs stopped working, so you know, at least mine still works. I'm not sure what they're doing with theirs, but it could just be I'm just lucky. And now for the Takara Tomy stuff. Ooh, you know what? I have handles for these, but I left them somewhere else, and I can't find them right now. But here is the left light launcher. I got this on Amazon. I mean, it's just it's a typical light launcher. I got it because I needed to launch left Beyblades in a good way. This was before I got this thing in the string launcher, but I had to use this for a while. And then I have two of these light launcher right spin with the long winders. I got these from actually Hobby Link Japan when I ordered the Stadium. So yeah, these are the ones that I actually use in competitive settings. You know, these are the most reliable. They're easy to, you know, they're easy to aim, and overall, these are really good ones. If you have to pick a right spinning one, I would say pick these ones, unless there's something new that's come out that I don't know of. Yeah, the main reason why I'm going through this collection is to kind of familiarize myself back with my whole collection, because I haven't really looked at Beyblades that much ever since Bakugan came out. Because this is called Zeonic Blader, right? Not Zeonic Brawler. But yeah, let's take a look at the Beyblades. First, we'll take a look at the single layer Beyblades. Well, obviously, if you're going to show off a collection, you always got to start off with the titular Beyblade. This is Valtryek. Originally known as Valkyrie in the Takara Tomy version, the Japanese version. Hasbro, for some reason, they call it Valtryek. I don't know what a Valtryek is. All I know is that now it's a Beyblade that's in Beyblade Burst. Yeah, it's really cool that this time Hasbro actually released the prototypes, or the first renditions of the Beyblades. I know that when Metal Fusion came out, before that, like way back, like 2007, 2008, Takara Tomy first released these metal wheel Beyblades. I'm not sure what they were called before, but they were right before right before they had fusion wheels. They were just metal tops, and then they had like a performance tip and a spin track on it. But yeah, Hasbro decided to release these things up in their double packs, and they're pretty cool, you know. Most of them are really weak. There's really only like one or two, or like there's a few of them that are pretty good, but most of them are pretty weak. People were really into the Hasbro version of Valtryek when it first came out because it had slopes, and the issue with the Takara Tomy version was that it had teeth. And the problem with teeth is that over time, when Beyblade Burst first came out, people were having issues where the teeth would run out after using it, and then there was a period in time where people were way too scared to actually test Valtryek, so they would keep Valtryek sealed or unplayed until a tournament, and then in the tournament they would actually start using it, mainly because of how weak the teeth were after many uses and how strong it was when initially out of the box. Well, yeah, this is Valtryek. It's a pretty decent Beyblade, at least to look. Performance-wise, it's pretty bad. It self-bursts way too much compared to the Takara Tomy version. And I'm not really sure how I feel about this like opaque yellow onto the edges. It's kind of weird. But anyways, the rival to Valtryek is obviously Spriggan Spread Fusion, or Spriggan Spread Fusion. And same thing with Valtryek. This thing, it's pretty weak, you know, compared to other single-layer Beyblades, mainly because it burst way too often. Spread was an okay part for a bit, but I mean, it got kind of outclassed, or there was better options, or people just really did not use it at the end of the day. And then there's Fusion, and Fusion's, you know, trash. But yeah, and then obviously the third character, there's always like 4 people. 2 of them are like the main guys, and then the other 2 are like filler characters. Not really filler characters, but they kind of they are like the people who have the other 2 attributes. In this case, it was defense and stamina, which I believe it's the same thing that they usually do. Oh, I was looking for Kirbyus. There we go. Now, the thing about Kirbyus is that this guy was actually really, really good for a bit. I think there's only been like 2 World Beyblade organized like Hasbro exclusive tournaments, and Kirbyus did really well in the first tournament, mainly because it had some really great stamina and it did not burst as much. I know this is Kirbyus defense. Yeah, I know when I first started playing Beyblade, my favorite spin track or performance tip was defense, mainly because I liked how the stamina was, and I kind of felt that it did not burst as much as what's it called, survive. But it seems like after doing some testing, it seemed like survive was the better option in the long run, because when defense kind of like, when you run down defense a bit, it starts to lose stamina, because this thing gets like run out and then you're like moving way too fast now, because you don't have that little ball to kind of like keep everything in like a more like slower. I don't know what I'm even talking about, but anyways, this was one of the Beyblades I actually really liked when it first came out. Compared to the other single layer Beyblades, this one actually looked really cool, because at the time a big problem with Hasbro Beyblades was that they looked pretty bad. Now let me show you. This is the Rocktivore single layer Beyblade, and as you can see, it seems like graphic design is this Beyblade's passion. I mean, geez, those polka dots are really tacky. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to have polka dots. Like, I would have preferred if they did that ugly, opaque kind of thing like they did with Valtryek, but for some reason they did that. And, you know, sometimes looks can be deceiving, you know. Rocktivore is actually a top-tier single-layer Beyblade when it first came out. Like, it topped Hasbro tournaments all around the place, even against the dual-layer Beyblades. This was, like, the top dog. Like, he was the one you wanted to be. Had great defense, great stamina, and it was this guy who was actually used for attack combinations, which was pretty insane. And then another really good single-layer Beyblade that came out during that time was Unicrest. Unicrest was also used quite a bit. I know it was kind of overhyped a bit because it kind of got outclassed by Rocktivore, Kirbyus, and another Beyblade called Yegjiron. Yegjiron, I don't know how to pronounce it. But in terms of the first ever WBO Hasbro tournament, this guy saw some pretty good play, and it was actually, I think some guy went really far just from the stock, because ring and defense were pretty good parts at the time. But nowadays, it's, you know, none of these Beyblades, single or dual layer, kind of hold a candle to the Evolution God line, because I mean the God line is like way too godly compared to these guys. But this guy, when it came out, he was pretty cool. Now the other Beyblade that did really well in terms of single layer was Yegjiron. Yegjiron had some really amazing stamina, and it was also used in a lot of kind of I forgot what it's called, but they not stationary stamina, but like very movement-based stamina, where people would launch it. Tornado stalling, yeah. People would use tornado stalling, where they'd put like Zephyr or something as the performance tip, and then just launch it really hard and have the Beyblade spin around the stadium for as long as possible. And it would do really well against attack types, because attack types would try to do the flower pattern, but this guy was always outside of the stadium rather than in the middle. So this guy saw some really good play, and I think it won first place in one of the tournaments as well. Now an attack type, there we go. This is Excalius. When Excalius first came out, this was the Beyblade that everyone wanted, because it had a rubber performance tip. Now the rubber performance tip was like really good. This one was like the best rubber performance tip that we had in the Beyblade Burst line, and also, I mean, it's red. Look at that. But the problem with this Beyblade was that people would have issues where they'd launch it and then this thing would break off. So I didn't really use this guy as often, mainly because I was scared of it breaking, which kind of like how people were afraid to use Valtryek because the teeth would wear off super quickly. But yeah, this guy was a bit towards the end of the Beyblade Burst single layer, dual layer kind of line. So it kind of got like, people started using the Burst Evolution Beyblades soonly after this guy came out, so it didn't really see that much play, especially since there isn't really much Hasbro tournaments organized by the WBO, so this guy didn't really see much play at all. And also, it's more of like a collector's piece now, because I mean, it's way too fragile. But yeah, onto the next Beyblade. Now the rest of these guys aren't that good at all. Here we go. We got the Horosude, which was the birth of the overused meme Cheeto for some. I'm not sure who created that, but a lot of people called him Cheeto. I guess because it's orange and Cheeto's orange. It's a funny joke, I know, man. Kids these days, right? But yeah, it's not really good at all, and it also brought on the birth of Edge. Now, I don't know why, but Hasbro has a huge obsession with Edge for some reason. Like, they use it for so many different Beyblades. I probably have like 7 copies of Edge for some reason. It's not even a good performance tip either. Like, the whole thing about Edge is that it makes your Beyblade kind of like really out of balance, and in turn the other Beyblade would go out of balance, but then it didn't really work properly, and then you really just had your Beyblade being out of balance, and yeah, you lose all the time with it. But yeah, it looks cool though. There's a purple one that I think looks better, but I mean this one looks fine as well. And then we go to Doom Sizer. Ooh, I was really excited for this guy because I've heard how powerful it was in the Takara Tomy version, and a lot of people were like super hyped for the Hasbro version to come out, but then Hasbro really nerfed it, and then this was like the first instance where we realized, oh, Hasbro Beyblades aren't that good compared to, you know, the Takara Tomy version, at least during this area. There was a few Beyblades that were better than the Takara Tomy parts, like Unicrest, Yegdrion, Rockdevore, Kirbyus. But Doom Sizer, there was a lot of high hopes for it because this guy, his Takara Tomy version, it absolutely dominated the meta scene for like years, for a couple years during the Beyblade Burst WBO thing. Like they had to ban this guy. Even Japan had to ban Doom Sizer from their tournaments because people were using this guy way too much and it was way too powerful compared to everyone else. But the Hasbro version is trash. Like it's one of the worst Beyblades in the entire line. And that's pretty sad. But next up we got a Mini Oboros. Now I haven't really did much testing. The Takara Tomy version was used for a bit, as for like mainly for attack combinations. But this guy, Hasbro version, I didn't really see much use for it. It kind of bursted way too often. But yeah, it's really I'm not really have much to say about it because I got this mainly for collection purposes. It has Quake and, you know, like Storm Capricorn, like those parts that make the Beyblade like jump whenever you launch it are really bad, and I hate them, and I don't know why they keep on doing it. It's like a weird gimmick that someone came up with and it kind of stuck. Now, here's another example of Hasbro nerfing a Beyblade that was super OP in the Takara Tomy version. Now this is Odox. I'm not sure what the other parts are, I kind of forgot. But this guy, he was so powerful that they had to ban him. He was like one of the first Beyblades to be banned in the WBO. And they quickly unbanned him once other Beyblades came out. But this was like one of the first ones to be banned. And yeah, the Hasbro version is really bad as well. It's like just burst. Like you touch it and burst. I don't know. Kind of a weird shape. I like the Takara Tomy version. It's a lot more crystallier. I don't like the opaque yellow. Yeah, it could have been really good, but nah. And then we have Wyvron. Yeah, I didn't really use this guy that much. I played with him on my spare time, but I mean, he doesn't have really any good parts. I think Armed was considered okay for a bit, but I mean, there's just so many better parts nowadays that, I don't know. I don't really see any use for him, mainly just for, oh, it's a Wyvron W2's previous form. Right, next up we got I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce the English version, but it's Neptune. I don't know why they, I guess like legal reasons because America is pretty weird. But yeah, Neptune. Apparently the Takara Tomy version was actually pretty good when it came out. This one isn't that good at all. The only good part is Zephyr. Zephyr is one of the best attack type performance tips in my opinion. Mainly because it's easy to control and it's hard hitting as well. You know, it's that cool mix of stamina and attack that I really like, and it doesn't knock out your Beyblade by itself like the rubber performance tips kind of do. Yeah, I still like to use this performance tip even to this day with the Evolution line. Not sure. I mean, like, it's so good. Like I know Trans came out, but then Trans has the kind of thing where it scrapes when it's like in the end game. I get it, Avengers, but during the end game. it kind of scrapes, which is pretty bad for life after death. You know, when especially these days when your stamina and defense Beyblades all have, you know, bearing and atomic, which are really good at life after death. If you're scraping, you pretty much have no chance against those guys. And next up is a one of the first recolors I have, Spryzen Heavy Defense. I mainly got this guy for the parts because when it came out, defense was my favorite performance tip, and heavy was one of the top tier metals. What's it called? Fusion? I don't know. It was one of the best weight discs in the game, so I pretty much got this guy for its parts. You know, sometimes you just gotta get a Beyblade for its parts, and yeah. Now, an interesting thing is this guy. This guy came out in the Evolution line. It's a Kanox C1. There wasn't a Kanox C2, just Kanox and then Kanox C3. Even with the Takara Tomy version, it was just Chaos and then Chaos C3. I haven't really done any testing with this guy. I mainly got this because I wanted to see how the Hasbro version compares to the Takara Tomy version, and because I forgot, was this Orbit or something else? I'm not really sure, but this performance tip was considered one of the best. Gyro, this is what it's called, Gyro. It was pretty good. Gyro was supposed to come out with other Beyblades in the Hasbro line earlier, but for some reason they did not release it. There was a huge problem with early Beyblade Burst for Hasbro, where they did not have the proper parts because, I don't know, they were too expensive to produce or something. But yeah, we finally got Gyro with the release of Kanox with the Wyvron W2 double pack. But I really like this guy. I had to do some tests with it, but like looks-wise, he's pretty cool. Next, we go to another recolor, the Black Valtryek. Now, this guy is really, really cool. He's the only reason why I picked up that really weird storage case for like. And the only reason I was able to pick it up is because I had a coupon that gave me some like money off of the storage case. Because the storage case is pretty bad. But it's only worth getting for this guy, and this guy's probably worth a bit. You know, he has some nice shiny details over here. I haven't really used this guy in battle, so it's pretty much near mint condition. And then next we go to the remakes. Obviously, we got to start off with Dragoon. There we go. I used to have a YouTube channel called Dragoon 1997. It was one of my first YouTube channels. But I was really into Beyblade as a kid, and Dragoon was one of the first Beyblades I had. I still have the plastic version of it. I don't have it with me right now, but you just have to take my word for it. But I mean, I really love how it looks, you know. It pretty much looks the same. I guess the only difference is that they kind of took out the... they kind of made these guys a bit more softer, because, you know, the whole thing about the old Beyblades was that they're spinning, you kind of grab onto it and then you hurt yourself because these were sharp. They kind of made them like flat now, kind of smoothish. But I mean, let's see. Does it pass the standing test? Nah, or I can't really do it right now. There we go. That's what I like to do with these rubber tips, because they always like are flat on the bottom, so you can always stand them like this. But yeah, I really liked how they made the whole thing white. I kind of wish that the rubber was actually blue, because that's what it was in the original release as well. But hey. I mean, it looks cool. It's a good nostalgic piece. I feel bad for the people who play in Japan, because their launchers have that little nub in it. I don't have the launcher with me right now, but they have that little nub sticking out of the launcher. So you see some people when they're playing with these Beyblades, the sticker is like all faded out because that nub was like rubbing against it every time they launched the Beyblade. And now, obviously, you have Dragoon's main rival, Dronzer. I think this guy is having oops. This guy was supposed to come out with Trans. Yeah, he was supposed to come out with Trans first, but then they didn't. They used Unite. I mean, Unite's okay. I guess it makes more sense to have Unite rather than Trans, mainly because of how Dronzer is. Trans is a bit more sleeker. Trans is a more bulkier kind of performance tip, but Unite's pretty good as well. But yeah, I really like... Man, Dronzer is my favorite Beyblade when I was a kid. Like, I only collected Dronzers when I was a kid. You know, I really wish I still had my plastic collection from when I was a kid. But, whoops. Oh no, I dropped it. But yeah, I don't think I ever had a Dronzer S. Mainly because I was a bit too young. I know I had a Dronzer F when I was a kid. Because, Beyblade came out when I was in preschool, so a bit too young to watch. But I really like the parts that come up with it. They're not that good, but they look really cool. You got Yell and Zeta. And obviously Dronzer F is really cool. I wish they released a black Dronzer F. So like, oh, black Dronzer, that would have been super cool. I guess you can buy another Dronzer F and then like paint it black, but I mean, that means you can't use it in the tournament. But then why would you use it in the tournament? All of these remake Beyblades, the Hasbro versions are really bad. Like even worse than the Takara Tomy versions, and those ones were bad as well. I think the only one that was worth using was Jigger. Jigger was one of the best stamina type, one of the better stamina type Beyblades for a bit in the WBO meta. People used it for a bit, but then it kind of got quickly shunned with the release of Switch Strike, or I guess they called it the God Layer system. But yeah, same thing with Dragoon or Dronzer S. I never really had a Jigger S. I had a Jigger F, but never a Jigger S, because I mainly my real peak with Beyblade was with like during the end part of it, like when Engine Gear and the heavy metal system came out. I mainly had the Engine Gear stuff, and the metal, the Magnacore system. Magnacore system was what I was really into, but I was like really young. Like I got back into Beyblade a couple years after it came out, like right before Bakugan was a thing. I was into Beyblade after it finished. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you're born in the wrong time, you know? And then, obviously, you got Drasil. I never really had a Drasil Beyblade. Like, defense types never really seemed to be my thing. I really was into stamina and attack types, even though attack types, for Hasbro at least, were really, really bad. And especially since in elementary school, we didn't use stadiums. We just launched these Beyblades onto the gravel, which was really, really bad for the bottoms. So the stamina type Beyblades did really well when we would play in the gravel, because I mean there wasn't really a set stadium, right? Because it was just on the floor. So we used to play Beyblade, and then the stamina type would always win. And then I used my Wolfborg, the yellow one. Man, he was the best one. And then the last single layer Beyblade is Dragoon F. Yeah. This one comes with gravity. I don't know. This one looks really cool. They actually made the performance tip, at least the bottom of it, red to kind of match with the original color scheme with it. I think the only issue I have is that they also smooth out the edges over here too, so it kind of looks more like a triangle, if anything. But I mean, it's not too bad. I like the overall design, and it's all mainly just nostalgia bait anyways. But yeah, that is the last of my single layers, and now we have to go to the double layers. I don't even know how much time we've spent on it, but time to go to the double layers. I guess before we get into the dual layers, I want to show you the Takara Tomy Beyblades that I have, mainly because there isn't really much of them that I have. I have the black Valtryek. Now this came with that triple battle set or whatever, I'm not sure. But this was like one of the first Valtryek V2 to actually have a reinforced these reinforced blades over here, because a big problem with the first initial release was that it would break off, and they reinforced it so that it wouldn't break off as often. And then next I have the Japanese Takara Tomy Kanox version. Yeah, I mean it's essentially the same thing. I replaced the thing over here because I lost the, not really lost, I gave away the third Beyblade. And then yeah, not really much to say because I already talked about the original Kanox. And now we have Neptune. Yeah, this one actually looks really cool. Yeah, as you can see, the performance tips for the Takara Tomy ones are a lot cooler than the Hasbro ones. The Hasbro ones look like Lego blocks or like Lego colors, opaque, while the Takara Tomy ones are a lot more crystally, you know, see-through kind of colors. But yeah, I was really digging this thing. Yeah, and now finally, we can now get into the dual layers. I guess we'll start with the obvious. Valtryek V2, the main Beyblade used by Valtoy, or Voltoy. Now, interestingly enough, they never really re-released this exact Beyblade. Mainly, I don't know why. It's the main character's first ever Beyblade in the show, and they never really did a re-release of it. I kind of had a feeling they wouldn't, and I have two of them. Funny enough, mainly because I wanted to get a spare spare driver for it, mainly because it was made out of rubber, right? So rubber kind of wears down. And at that time, the only way to get that was from Valtryek V2. So I pretty much I have 2 of them. Yeah, I mean, this Valtryek V2 was actually pretty solid. I think it did really well in some WBO tournaments with the Knuckle and Zephyr. But yeah, this was my favorite Beyblade for a bit. And obviously we have to show off his, his rival, Storm Sprisen. Yeah, this one came with some pretty cool parts. Storm Sprisen was one of the Beyblades that were actually better than its original release. Valtryek V2 was pretty much essentially the same Beyblade performance-wise. Like, you could use this one or you could use the Takara Tomy version. Didn't really matter because they pretty much performed the same thing. And then Storm Sprisen was actually one of the Beyblades that were better than the original release, which was pretty cool. Again, I'm not really digging the whole opaque kind of color sticker over here. I feel they could have done something more, like maybe with a gradient it would look cooler, but I don't know. I don't really use this guy. He's cool to look at, but I mean, his evolutions are way more better. And then obviously we have to take a look at the third tier guy. Where is he? There we go. Roctivore R2. Unfortunately, compared to the younger version, Roctivore R1, he's not really that good. At least it comes with Gravity and Revolve. Gravity and Revolve are pretty big parts, and there was also a recolor of him that came with the Excalius Beyblade, the blue one. Yeah, I actually like the colors of the blue one a bit more compared to the orange one, I guess, mainly because, you know, it's a recolor, so, you know, it's the kind of thing where the grass is greener. You know, I had the orange one first, and the orange one was cool, but then the blue one came out, and I'm like, wow, that looks cooler, just like with Black Dronzer and the original Dronzer. But, I mean, nowadays, this guy never really saw any use, except for the metal and the performance tip. And then, obviously, after that, we have to get the fourth guy, and who is Kirbyus. Now, this is a recolor. I like to call him Sprite, because it reminds me of Sprite for some reason. This one came with Unicrest, I think. And then we have the original one. Now, a big complaint that people had with the Hasbro Beyblades when they first came out is that they didn't really look like the Takara Tomy versions. They looked like completely different Beyblades, which was kind of worrying because, you know, you'd watch the show and then it's like, oh, I want that Beyblade, but then it looks different compared to what you see in the store. But Kirbyus was the kind of thing where, like, oh, it actually looks like the Beyblade in the TV show. Yeah, it doesn't really have any good parts, but I mean, it's really only used for collection anyways. Because it's like the main 4 characters, Beyblades, you know what I'm talking about? Next we have Wyvron W2. I remember this guy, I watched the first like 10 episodes of Beyblade Burst, so this was like the one of the not the bad guys, but like one of the rivals of the main character that the main character had to go through. And then there was also a recolor that I have. Let me just double check to see if I have it with me. Oh yeah, the red one. I don't know, they did actually quite a few recolors for this guy, which is really surprising. Mainly because it's just Wyvron. I don't know, it seems like that guy was like one of the more popular characters, because they even reprinted the Wyvron W3, which is kind of weird. But I mean, I also have another color of him, but he has different parts. So these two both have the same, what's it called? This metal part and then the driver. Vertical Massive. Yeah, they both have Vertical Massive. But then they also released another one with Kanox, which was brown, or kind of golden, like an Aurus kind of golden, like with the Bakugan. But this one came with, shoot, I forgot this guy. Upper or Wing Jaggy. I don't know, it's kind of a weird combination, akin to the old Beyblade Metal Fusion double packs where they had like weird things like Storm Leon and Rock Pegasus. But I mean, I never really used this guy's like pretty much mint because I never used him in a battle. But yeah, I don't really like it. Like at this point, it's like my third Wyvron W2, and I'm kind of bored of him. So get out of here. And next, this guy. Oh my god, I hate. This is my least favorite Beyblade in Beyblade Burst entirely. Like, I don't know, the yellow is super ugly, and it doesn't come with the trans driver. And this was like one of the biggest complaints people had with the beginning of the Beyblade Burst in Hasbro, where they wouldn't really release any of the really cool parts because, I don't know, like a money thing or a money issue. I guess similar to the current way they're handling Beyblade Burst Turbo, where they take out the metal. In this case, there was no metal except for the, you know, metal wheel or whatever. But they kind of gimped some of these Beyblades by not giving them the parts that they were supposed to have, which really ticked me off, and which is why I was a bit on rough waters with the dual layer Beyblades. Like after a while with dual layer Beyblades, I kind of stopped for a bit and missed the last wave of them, and then I came back when Evolution came back. But yeah, a lot of people were angry when this guy came out without the parts that he was supposed to have. And then next we got Yegjion Y2. Now this guy saw some play as well. He wasn't as good as Yegjion Y1 or just regular Yegjion, but this guy was still pretty decent for a stamina type. I think it burst way too much for my taste, but you know, not too bad. And then what else? What should I show next? Oh, Unicrest U2. Now this guy this is one of the more pretty looking Beyblades. He has a weird design. Unfortunately, he's really bad. Like where Yegjion Y2 was kind of worse for Yegjion, but still saw some play, this guy was like completely bad. However, it came with Needle, which is pretty good for like, you know, mixed balance type Beyblades or stationary attack type Beyblades. But other than that, yeah, not good at all. Oh yeah, here's another Beyblade that a lot of people were angry about, or kind of disappointed in. Doomsizer D2. This guy was also another Beyblade that was super OP in the Takara Tomy version that got like nerfed like crazy compared to Hasbro. This thing was banned in Japan, but the Hasbro version is like completely a joke. Now this guy, he is one of the first Beyblades I had that broke. You can see over here. When I was recording that live action Beyblade kind of video, it broke when it bursted. Luckily I have a recolor of it, the green one. It's essentially the same thing, but it has a green... The scythe part is kind of green and yellow. Yeah, too bad these guys suck. Otherwise, I would have loved playing with them. But, anyways, we're almost to the Hasbro Beyblades. But before we get to that, here is another issue. Here's another disappointment. Fantasius P2. Whoops. I actually really like the energy layer that they used. And this one actually has polish, which is one of the better like discs, forged discs, before the Evolution line came out, or I guess the Switch Strike line, because this is part of the Evolution line. Unfortunately, this thing has a edge. Edge is like, oh my god, I don't know which. I forgot which one it was supposed to. I forgot the original driver that I was supposed to have, but Edge is like, man, hate Edge. Okay, next we're gonna take a look at this one, Odox 02. This is one of my favorite Beyblades because of how it looks. It looks really close to the Takara Tomy version, you know, except for the driver being like opaque and all. But the energy layer or fusion wheel, I forgot what they call it, but this looks really, really cool. Yeah, I don't think it's that good. You know, performance-wise, it's pretty mediocre for an attack type, but I mean, it looks really cool. And it comes with a rubber flat, or I forgot what they call this. Extreme. If it comes with Extreme. And Extreme is always good. Even to this day, Extreme is really fun to use. And then next off, we have Horosude H2. Yeah, I mean, this is just a collector's Beyblade. You know, there's not really any good part that comes with it. This kind of reminds me of Sagittarius. But I mean, except other than that, it's pretty much a run-of-the-mill generic Beyblade that doesn't really perform that well. But I mean, it's the older brother or the evolution of Cheeto, and I mean, this guy never became a meme. So shame for him. He's obscure Beyblade, you know, something that people aren't really gonna remember unless you have it in your collection. And then I guess all of these Beyblades I have to show you now are from the Evolution line. We got a Nubion A2, Acid Anubis. In the Japanese version. This came in Orbit, and Orbit was a part that we were missing for a long time, but we finally got it with this guy, and we also, I think this is the first Beyblade to come with Yell in the Hasbro release. But I mean, I really love This is Beyblade. I think this is this is like a above average Beyblade stamina wise or defense wise. But I mean, with the Switch Strike line, you know, you can't really compare it to that. But I mean, this guy, he is the bee's knees. He's really cool looking. You know, he's Egyptian. I mean, what more can you want? You know? Oh yeah, good Beyblade. That's what I want. But anyways, here is another broken Beyblade that I have. Ifritcher I2. And now in my review, I said that the Hasbro fixed the whole breaking part with Ifritcher I2. Unfortunately, I dropped him and then it broke, which is a shame because this Beyblade is actually really cool. Like attack wise, I mean, compared to like other dual layer Beyblades and single layer Beyblades, as an attack type, it's really cool. Unfortunately, it came out way too late for it to be any use because the Switch Strike line is just like dominating everything at this point. But I mean, it's a cool looking Beyblade, and yeah, it comes with Zephyr. Zephyr is like one of the best attack parts, and if you have a Zephyr, you're cool. Oh yeah, next, Minioboros M2. Ooh, this is when Hasbro Beyblades start to look a lot like their Takara Tomy counterparts. It comes with Jaggy, but I mean, really, it's a really cool looking Beyblade, but I mean, it's not that good. It's pretty generic attack type. But yeah, one of the first Beyblades I unboxed in the channel. Then we have Quetzalcoatl Q2. This is a reprint of it that came in the single pack because I missed the starter set version that came up with it because that was when I kind of had that like half a year hiatus with Beyblade. And this one does not come with the original forged disc or the original performance tip. It comes with Edge and Ring. Ring's okay, but I mean Edge, oh my, another Edge Beyblade, you gotta be kidding me, right? But I mean, looks kind of cool. Has a weird pattern over here, like a frog or something, like a toxic frog. And then we have another reprint Beyblade, Behemoth B2. I really like the colors of the not the top. What was it called? The fusion wheel. I don't know. I forgot the parts, but I really like how the Behemoth B2 layer. That's what it's called, a layer. The layer looks really cool. Unfortunately, it comes with some pretty mediocre performance tips and forger discs. It comes with liner. I mean, it's like a pretty fun thing to do, like when oh you're driving a car or something. But as an actual part, it's not that good. It uses too much stamina, and yeah, not good at all. And now we're going to the Beyblades that are exclusive to Hasbro. The first one was Diomedes D2. You know, it was the kind of Beyblade where it has the shape to kind of be like an attack type, but unfortunately it doesn't have the weight. It was too light of a layer to actually hit really hard, and kind of bursts way too frequently. Like the shape looks really cool, but unfortunately it couldn't really do heavy hits, and kind of you know, went into obscurity. But I mean, it is Hasbro's first exclusive Beyblade, which is why it's really cool. Next we have I think Ice Cross I2. This was like their first stamina type Beyblade that they released as a exclusive. It's trash, you know. Survive is okay, but at that point it was over. It was like we had the Evolution Switch Strike line, so this thing was already like, only reason to buy these Beyblades was because they're Hasbro exclusive, so you can't get them from Takara Tomy. And Guinon G2, actually I'm not sure if this was a Hasbro exclusive or not. This came with the I'm not sure what this came in a double pack, but I forgot which one it was. But I mean, yeah, this one came with quarter. That's pretty cool. But I mean, other than that, it's pretty generic. And then we have Hydrus H2. I actually really like the color combination they used for this, the blue and green. And the fusion wheel looks really cool. I mean, the layer looks, the dual layer looks really cool. And yellow is always cool to have because yellow is a really cool forge disc because it's a star. I mean, I think, and stars are cool. But anyways, that's all of my jeweler Beyblades, and now we get to my favorite lineup of Beyblades. Alright, next up is my favorite Hasbro Beyblade Burst line, Beyblade Burst Evolution. Now, Beyblade Burst Evolution is why I came back into playing with Beyblades in the first place. At least after I stopped with the dual layer, because dual layers, you know, a lot of big problem was that the Beyblades were either, there were a few Beyblades that were just as good as the Takara Tomy ones. There was like a couple that were better, but then most of them were like worse. and then the parts weren't the same all the time, and it really annoyed me, and also annoyed a lot of people as well, and then a lot of people just left. But then when Beyblade Burst Evolution came, especially the Switch Strike line, that thing like turned a new leaf, because I mean, out of all the Beyblade Burst Beyblades that I have the most of the Switch Strike line, or at least I think I do. But this is my most favorite line, pretty much. And obviously we have to show off the Valtryek V3, or God Valkyrie, or what's it called. Now there isn't really any good parts with Valtryek V3, I guess, except for I think Vortex or Flow. I forgot what part this is, but the Forge Disc was pretty cool. You know, at first, when I first started playing with the Evolution line, I did not take off the Forge Disc. I didn't know how to. I was too scared that I'd take it off and I wouldn't know how to put it back together. And then I think like maybe a few months after, it was when I actually started putting the Forge Disc and moving them, I mean the disc frames. The disc frames, I would start taking them out of the Forge Disc and put them into other Forge Discs. But before that, I was way too scared to take them off because I was worried I wouldn't put them on properly and it would be kind of like a hula hoop, all like being all loose around when spinning. But yeah, I also have the you know, after this is the one from the Starstorm battle set. This one also came with Satum S3, which is pretty much exclusive to those battle sets. You know, there's a big annoying thing that I found with the Beyblade Burst Evolution line is that there's a few Beyblades that are kind of they're exclusive to these big sets, which kind of sucks, because if you want just the Beyblade and not the huge stadium or something, you're kind of out of luck. I got the Starstorm battle set as like my first Evolution Switch Strike Beyblade kind of set, so it kind of made sense for me to get it. But then came out the one with the I forgot what it was called, Noctimus, not Noctimus. But anyways, there was a Beyblade that came out that was really good, but unfortunately it was stuck behind a huge stadium, and I never got it because I mean it's expensive. It's like $60-70 in Canada. I'm not gonna spend $70 just to get one Beyblade, you know what I'm saying? Because it came with Genesis Valtryek, the other version of it, the kind of slight upgraded version of it. But yeah, I did not get that because it was too expensive, and I'm still kind of annoyed of it. I'm really hoping that it gets re-released in like a Wave 8 or Wave 9 Switch Strike, but until then, I can only wish for like a huge price cut, like, oh, it costs like $20 instead of 70, which is really good thinking, right? But anyways, this Beyblade isn't that good. It comes with Glaive and 4, which is pretty good parts, but the layer itself isn't that good. It has like a wheel with it, so I guess we can kind of like coordinate with Lion or whatever. But then obviously we have the main rival, Red Eye. Ooh, this guy. Ooh. When it came out, it was like one of the best Beyblades in the entire game, and I mean, it's still really good to this day in the Hasbro meta. And there hasn't really been many Hasbro Beyblades that can stand up to this guy. This guy's like really powerful, has a great smash attack, and yeah, I really like it. It comes with I think 2 or 1, I'm not sure. But yeah, and there might be some parts of the Beyblades if you notice that they're kind of off order. This is 7. I think this is Spryzen Requiem, or I think this is Legend Spryzen. It's supposed to come with 7, but there's some Beyblades where the Forge Discs are kind of mismatched that they're supposed to, because I usually keep the Beyblades like in different like separately from. I don't keep them put together, you know. So I put them all together for this video, and that took like a couple hours because I have like what, over 70 Beyblades, and you have to find out which part goes where. But anyways, we have Legend Spryzen. This one has a metal God chip, and now the thing with the Hasbro Beyblades is that the God chips you cannot take off. But really, it doesn't really matter. For most of them, it doesn't really matter because the God chips that are best for it are on it already. At least for the Beyblades that are like top tier for Hasbro. But yeah, this guy is hard to find. Like, you can't get this guy anywhere now. It's part of Wave 1 or Wave 2, and pretty much the early Switch Strike Beyblades you cannot find at all. You can only find the later releases. Not sure why. Hopefully they reprint this guy. They reprinted this guy in a different color in that Snake set. But other than that, this one hasn't had much love. So people are really looking for this guy because he's like cool. Like, even when it came out, he was hard to find because he's like the you know, the edgy character's main Beyblade. And now we have Rocktivore R3. Now this is one of my cool. It was one of the cooler looking Beyblades. The performance tip isn't that good, but I mean it's from the third character. Interestingly enough, the guy who uses Kirby's, I don't think he shows up in the show, or at least what I've heard is that the Evolution Beyblades that they actually released, they only released the ones that they had the characters in the show appear. And since Kirby's K3 never showed up, I guess that guy never came. Apparently he's in Turbo. He would Hazard Kirby's, but the Takara Tomy released Kirby's K3. Unfortunately, it never really came to the West until recently with the Turbo line. But then that version doesn't have its what's it called, gimmick. It's considered better than the original version, but I don't know. It kind of has a bad taste in my mouth since it doesn't come with the gimmick. But anyways, I'm talking about Kirby's when I should be talking about Rocktivore. It's pretty cool. It has this thing that moves a bit. But yeah, this is a stamina type Beyblade. It never really saw much use, mainly because there's so many really good stamina type Beyblades in the Split Strike line that Rocktivore never really saw anything past its initial wave. And then the same wave, we got Noctimus, or I forgot what this guy's called. Shoot. I wish I remember what it was called, but the cool thing about this guy was that he was the first Beyblade to come with trans in the Hasbro release. And what we noticed that the Beyblade prices went up a bit, but in turn we got some really much more high quality Beyblades as an exchange for like a $3 upgrade. And I was really hoping that if they ever do a release, like I heard like Hyper Blade or something, Hyper Blade or Hyper Wave, or I'm not sure what it's called, Hyper Alpha or Alpha Hyper, but apparently there are some rumors that the Turbo Beyblades are going to have a release where they're released with metal, and you know all they have to do is like raise the price a bit higher, maybe like $20 Canadian, and then you have the bit metals. I'm guessing that, you know, apparently Hasbro was having a really hard financial time, and I guess they really needed the money, they really needed the sales, and they were kind of probably scared that, oh, if we increase the price for the metal, then people will be less likely to buy it, because now you're spending like what, $20 on a Beyblade. Like the Switch Strike Beyblades are $17.99, and that's pretty high for like one Beyblade, considering that they used to be like $14.99, and the double packs used to be $19.99. So you're spending, you know, $2 less than a double pack for one Beyblade, and then you spend $2 more and you get the two Beyblades. I mean, even though these ones are a lot more high quality, still, you know, the average consumer won't think about that. They'll think about the quantity over the quality, right? But anyways, I'm getting off topic again. But apparently this guy was okay for a bit. Really, you're only going to want to get this guy for I think for its trans disc, which is like, you know, really cool. It took way too long to get this guy, unfortunate, to get the trans driver, but we eventually got it, and that's all that matters, right? So next, Regulus R3. I just made an unboxing video with this guy, and you know, there's not really any good parts with it, I think. Apparently Regulus R3 is okay, but yeah, he looks cool. That's what I gotta give it. There's a red one that's coming out in Wave 6 or Wave 7 of Switch Strike, but I mean, you know, this guy looks cool. He has that kind of driver that's like this. But I mean, I can't really say much of it because I already talked so much about it in the in my latest unboxing. And now we have a Genius J3. I really like the blues that they do with Beyblades. It's always really clear and really pretty looking. This Beyblade has a really nice blue kind of look. The milky yellow disc frame really matches with the blue. And even this driver, I don't know what this driver is, but it kind of has like a, kind of moves up and down, kind of like this, whoops, this thing kind of turns as well, kind of bursted by mistake. But it comes with glaive. Glaive is always good to have, you know. And then I have two Kanox C3s. Now Kanox C3 is a Beyblade you want to have multiples of. If there's any Beyblade you want to have multiples of, it's Kanox C3, because I mean, all the parts that it comes with are either okay, or either decent or like top tier. You got bearing, you got the Kanox C3 layer, those things are top tier parts. You know, bearing is a part that you want to get multiples of because you can only get it on Kanox C3. You know, you got to get multiples of this guy just in case it kind of wears out after a few years of play. But also for testing out different part combinations, you know. Have 2 different bearings and then you can tell which, you know, layer or something is better because you have 2 different bearings to kind of compare them to, right? But yeah, I got one of them full price from Walmart. And then the second one was from Amazon, and that thing was like, what, $7.99? Like, it was really cheap. It was like during Christmas, so they were probably having some sales, but it was really cheap, and it's one of the better Beyblades to come out. And then Garuda G3. Ooh. This guy was just recently unbanned, but for a while, this guy was like one of the best Beyblades, like, in the entire game. Like, Takara, Tomy, Hasbro, Shogakukan. I don't think Shogakukan makes any more Beyblades, but out of all the Beyblades in the entire Beyblade Burst line, Garuda G3 from Hasbro was like the best. Because the Garuda G3 from Takara Tomy has slopes as well, and because of how OP it is. But then Hasbro has been using slopes for so long that their slopes are better. And so when Garuda G3 came, it just kind of messed with everyone. And even now, it's like a pretty formidable foe. So it's interesting to see how the Hasbro kind of the Hasbro only tournaments will deal with Garuda G3, though there hasn't really been a Hasbro only tournament in a long time. So I wonder how it will do in a tournament. It might just dominate, but I mean, you never know, right? And then next up, we got I think I'll show off. Ooh, try to show off this guy, Wyvron W3. Interestingly enough, a lot of people were looking for this guy, I think, recently, because, I mean, one of the main characters uses this Beyblade, right? And this guy came out in Wave 1, and it was one of the Beyblades where it hasn't really had a reprint, I guess, except for that, I think, the dual threat launcher set, the gray one, but this guy, people really wanted it, and then Hasbro did a reprint of it, so looks like Hasbro really does listen to the people who are, you know, buying their products. So it's cool that they reprinted it for people who want it. Though I haven't really seen it in the wild, even after the reprint came out. So I don't know if people are actually, if it's like short printed or not. But anyways, this is the Excalius X3. Now this is the version that came with the sword launcher. I'm not sure how it is compared to the original one. Unfortunately, Hasbro has kind of a knack for kind of downgrading Beyblades when they re-released them. This one's pretty cool. I mean, I haven't really had any issues. It comes with metal. Metal's always cool. And yeah. Now, the reason why I say that Hasbro likes to nerf Beyblades with their re-releases is because of the Ultimate Tournament set. The Ultimate Tournament set, you know, I was kind of tricked into buying this. For like months, I was saving, not for months I was saving it, but like for a long time I was like, oh, I don't need to buy these Beyblades because they're coming in this whole collection set. And then I was waiting for a sale. And I finally got the collection set, and then I find out, oh, these Beyblades actually suck compared to the original release. And I was like super annoyed because I spent like, what, $60 on the entire set? Even after the sale, I spent like $60 on the entire set, and then pretty much all the Beyblades are essentially GIMP versions that you shouldn't use at all, which was really made me angry because, you know, you had Lunar L3, you know, let me just bring them up. You had Lunar L3. I don't really like this recolor of it. It's like pea yellow. I don't know why they said they thought this would be a good idea. But it is a lot weaker than its original original release of it. Also, the tournament battle set of Satum S3. This is pretty much the same, but kind of slightly worse, at least from my testing of it. And then the recolor of Valtryek V3. This one's exactly the same. This one's pretty much the exact same Beyblade, just a different color, which is fine. But unfortunately, Valtryek V3 isn't good at all. I mean, it isn't good. When this set came out, Valtryek V3 wasn't good anymore. So it's like, oh, you got the same kind of performing type Beyblade, but I mean, the performance of the original one wasn't that good to begin with. And then you have Calzar K3. Now, Calzar K3 for this release came out before the actual single pack came out. Unfortunately, this one is worse than the single pack, because I have the single pack one as well, and this one's worse. Unless at least you get Hunter. Hunter is always good to have multiples of because it's rubber and rubber wears out. But this guy was worse than its original part. Let's see, what else did I think that's almost all of them except for, yeah, there we go. Fafnir F3. Apparently, this Fafnir is essentially the same thing. Unfortunately, I don't have the original version of Fafnir F3. If I did, I'd be able to know for sure, but from what reviews say online, it's pretty much the exact same Beyblade. But yeah, but there's always that little hint of like, oh, I don't know if it's actually the exact same. Maybe I have a weaker version. That thing's always in my mind. But hey, you know, at least this one's actually pretty good. But yeah, I think that is all the Beyblades from the Starstorm set. And then, oh wait, I think, yeah. But anyways, here I ended up buying the original versions of the Starstorm set, because these ones, like, as soon as I opened them, I noticed for sure that, oh, these ones are infinitely better than the Starstorm battle, not the Starstorm, the tournament collection set. These ones have much stronger slopes. They, you know, and in Beyblade Burst, if your slopes are really weak, then you're kind of like done for. But yeah, I was super surprised how powerful Surprise and Requiem is for Hasbro. Apparently the Hasbro version is even stronger than the Takara Tomy version, you know, and this thing was banned from the WBO as well, which is absolutely insane. Like, I kept this guy in mint condition, you know, mint condition. I'm probably only going to use this guy in tournaments. Like, he's so powerful, man. Like, I'm gushing over this guy. But anyways, here is what you call oh shoot, I forgot what he was called. But anyways, this guy was a bit disappointing. I mean, it's not like a top tier Beyblade, it's above average, but I was kind of hoping it'd be kind of like a top tier kind of Beyblade. But I mean, you know, you gotta do it. You can only expect so much, right? Apparently, what's it called? The Wave 7 Split Strike, or yeah, Wave 7 has a couple Beyblades that are top tier, so I'm gonna get those eventually. And there is the original Calzar K3. I think this is part of Wave 5 or Wave 5. But yeah, this is much more tighter than the tournament collection one for sure. And plus, it's always good to have another Hunter, right? And now this one, ooh, Balkesh B3. This guy took WBO by surprise. Like, it was much, much better than the Takara Tomy version. And then this guy started placing in actual tournaments with Takara Tomy Beyblades. Well, at least until, like, Show Z came out. This guy was, like, one of the top tier Beyblades in the entire, like, Beyblade Burst competitive scene. Unfortunately, Show Z with the metal, it's just, like, completely outclasses everything that the Split Strike line has to offer. But I mean, this guy in the Hasbro scene, he's still really powerful, and he's a left spinning Beyblade as well. The cool thing is that every single part that comes with this Beyblade is really good as well. You got Bump, you got 2, you got the Atomic, and you got Balkesh V3. And then I have a recolor of Rocktivore R3. Now this is from, I think, the Quad Ring Comet pack. And it's always good to have another Atomic. I think this is one of the better Atomics. I think this is like the best Atomic to come with. And it's also really cool to have a recolor with glitter. Like, this is a kind of recolor I expect from Takara Tomy, not really from Hasbro. If only this was a clear. If this was a clear driver, then it would be perfect as a recolor. What else am I want to show you? Oh yeah. Similarly from the Quad Ring Comet pack is the not Noctimus, shoot, I forgot what it's called. But yeah, I think this comes at 7. 7 is always a great part to have. Hunter, another great part. Apparently, this version of I forgot what it was, this version of the lair is better than the original version from my testing. So unfortunately, it's this lair is outclassed, even though it's better than the original one that came out. Now I have a couple more Beyblades to show you. This is from the that launcher set, and again we have Trans, which is really cool. And this is the reprint of Wyvron W3. At this point, Wyvron W3 was out of print, So this was a Canadian Tire exclusive in Canada. I'm not sure if it was, I think it was a Target exclusive in the US, but I'm not too sure. This thing had a glittery forge disc, or disc frame, which was really cool, you know. We haven't really seen anything like that from Hasbro before. Unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, but I mean, if the driver was clear, this would have been great as well. And then lastly, we have Fafnir F3. Ooh, this is one of the most prettiest Beyblades in my entire collection. Even though the driver is opaque, just the way it matches with the colors of the layer and the disc frame is absolutely astonishing. And this is one of my favorite Beyblades. I think this one performs pretty much the exact same as the tournament set, which in turn apparently is just as good as the original release, but I'm not too sure. But anyways, I believe that is all of the Beyblades that I have in my collection. This is a really long video. If you stood by for so long, say Pikachu on the dance floor. If you comment that, I will give you a heart in the comments below. But anyways, this has been Zionic Blader, and I hope you enjoyed this whole rundown on my collection. You know, it's not the biggest collection out there, but you know, I don't really make money off of YouTube. This whole collection is mainly just passion, you know. But anyways, this has been Zionic Blader. Subscribe if you want. You don't have to. I'm not the boss of you. You can do whatever you want. Like it. Hopefully you like it. You know, and I'll catch you next time when we pet some platypuses. So goodbye. Oh wait, I almost forgot to show you guys the spare disc frames that I have. Now, the Quad Comet Pack, the Tournament Collection, they all came with frames as well. We have this Vortex frame. Vortex. You got Glaive. You got a Flow. Another Vortex. This is a golden Vortex. That's from the set. We have a Cross. Another Cross. This is like my least favorite disc frame in the entire set because it's like brown. Like this is like a really ugly looking brown. And then we have ooh, this one starts with M. I forgot what M means. Massive. I think Massive is a forged disc. I don't know. Not this frame, but it's a performance. I'm not too sure. But anyways, that has been my collection. This is a really long video, so I hope you enjoyed it, or at least we played this in the background. You know, kind of like background noise. But anyways, that's my entire collection of Beyblade Burst. Yeah, it's my entire collection of Beyblade Burst. So anyways, this has been Zionic Blader, and I will catch you next time.